Greetings and salutations. It is Saturday, the 18th of April in the year 2026, and in ISO 8601 time, it is the 20th hour, the 56th minute, and the 55th second. I'm making a short recording for myself and for others, since it would be useful to distribute this, and it would be a good video. It's some words of, well, not a video, it's a recording. It's just an audio recording because I'm just talking. There's no need to make a video and hog the network on people who are watching. But yeah, this is a recording. This is just a summary of some observations and solutions around indecisiveness. Okay, I'm not the expert on indecisiveness. I don't have four PhDs, master degrees, and all of that. I don't have a master's in indecisiveness. Or no, I don't have a master's in indecisiveness solving. These are just some things I've learned. So the structure is we're going to go over four main points, and we're gonna discuss some solutions for each one. Let's keep it short and sweet. So you know what indecisiveness is? It's the inability or avoidance of making a decision when faced with it. And one of the first reasons is, let's say you cannot soundly make a decision. This is the most obvious one to deduce. You're indecisive because you can't soundly make a decision because you don't know. You don't have the adequate amount of knowledge, or you don't have the adequate amount of intelligence. In regards to intelligence, you always have the adequate amount of intelligence. If you didn't, you wouldn't have a decision to make. But if you don't have enough knowledge, what you should do is you should just keep researching until you have a adequate amount of information to make a decision from. Some good tips to use, some good things to do here to make the research more effective. Change your methods. Always change your methods. If you're sitting down, stand up. If you're standing up, sit down. That's what the adage is. You should change the way that you're researching or gaining knowledge about the subject. And if you're not applying your knowledge, you should. And if you are only applying knowledge, you should gain knowledge. So always try to make it dynamic. Because if you just do the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. And some good note here is if you want to be picky over the way that you want to research, then choose experience, because experience triumphs over intelligence. Here's a definition of a word: sophomore. A sophomore is someone who's pretty smart, but also at the same time kind of foolish. And this is because they don't have experience. They don't apply their knowledge. So don't be a sophomore. Don't be well read and still stupid. Apply the knowledge that you have. And always choose experience. As any good engineer knows, you should choose experience. Experience always triumphs over theory, right? You can have a good idea, but it's possible for a good idea to spoil good work. That's one thing. And also a footnote, write down what you know on pen and paper, because sometimes you might be fooling yourself into thinking that you don't know enough, but you do. So always write down what you have on pen and paper, okay? Okay, we've cleared one point. We can go to the next point related to it. You might also not be satisfied with your conclusion, or you're doubtful of your own judgment. This is an issue of confidence. Um, the easy solution to this is just be confident. But that's a whole more difficult issue for many people, being confident in your decisions. If you're not confident in your decisions, you're kind of sabotaging yourself. But if you have a warrant, you're warranted to believe that you might be wrong. Then you should ask people. Now, there are some conditions for asking people to make sure that you're doing it correctly and not wasting your time. Just like going on the internet has some rules to make sure you're not wasting your time. First of all, don't play computer games and don't go on social networking sites. There's also some guidelines to asking people. First thing that you should do, you should collect your ideas so you don't waste other people's time. You should have already reached the conclusion and then doubted it. You cannot doubt a conclusion that you haven't made. So it's nonsensical to be not satisfied with a conclusion you haven't made. Of course you're not satisfied. It's because you haven't done your work. You haven't done anything. But let's say you did collect your ideas together. You've collected the knowledge that you have, the reasoning that led you to the conclusion that you have made securely. And then after that, you're qualified to not be satisfied with your conclusion. That is if you have, adequate confidence and you still have a warrant to not believe that you're correct. In that case, go ask people. And there's another guideline: ask people who know. Don't ask people who don't know. If people don't know, they're not going to help you. You can ask people who don't know, but it'll be a waste of your time. And it should be a last resort. I'm not saying don't look for signs. Always look for signs. But if you're asking people who don't know, if you're asking a plumber about electricity or an electrician about plumbing, then you're probably doing the wrong thing. Okay? That's another point cleared. And that's the next point that I wanted to find. Let me just find it here. Is you are faced with equivalent solutions and you don't know which one to pick. What's the solution here, you might ask? Or you don't ask because it's a rhetorical question. Just pick one. Just pick one. At that point, it's not indecisiveness, it's just being picky. And here's a qualified reason to, if you really need to know. Let's state the obvious. If you worry about time, I don't know if you worry about time. I worry about time. I don't like wasting time, and when I find myself wasting time, I don't enjoy it. I'm not privy to it. So if you worry about time, you should know that it's more of a waste of time to sit around waffling about what to do when you have an array of equivalent options that you could do that would work. And if you're fearing that you're doing the wrong thing, then it's fine to do the wrong thing. Because doing the wrong thing is the definition of experience. You do the wrong thing so you know what the right thing is. That's the best way to learn. So what I've written down here is choose to do anything, as usually experience will help you make better decisions and will be a more productive use of your time than waffling, right? That's for time efficiency. So just doing something is better than doing nothing. Even if you're like, regardless of getting the correct solution or the wrong solution or stuff like that, beyond um, the sanctity of decisions, which isn't real, just to let you know, um, it's it's considered, at least in my point of view, that wasting your time is bad and doing stuff is good. I know it's obvious, but it's useful to say, right? Just for those, the impossibly small percentage of people who might not know about this, doing things is good. Doing anything is better than doing nothing. Doing nothing is actually the worst thing to do. And the final point, you're unwilling, or one is unwilling to act. Sorry, let me put on my bow tie. Let me put on my monocle. When one is unwilling to act, it is usually either because one does not like any of their available solutions. In that case, let me read it. One can't have their cake and eat it simultaneously. Uh, Furthermore, one should deal with it or fabricate a new solution. Hmm? And in the other case, that is the origin or what constitutes the unwillingness to act being the avoidance generally of progressing, or in essence self-sabotage, then one should know that if they cannot help themselves, then no one else can. Okay. Uh, the final part of this, just an exegesis, is one if someone is faced with a decision, usually it is thanks to three factors. First of all, they are the only one who is qualified enough for the decision. No one else is, and that's why it's reached them. Secondly, it's a truth or an axiom, let's say, that the person who is faced with a decision is always the most motivated to act. Um, just to exemplify the way that you should image this sentence is that if you're faced with a decision and you have, let's say, motivation as a number, let motivation be X. If motivation is 1 for you, then everyone else is less than or equal to your motivation. So it's either 1 or 0 or 0.5 or 0. So either they care just as much as you or less, which means you should do it. And thirdly, if one is faced with a decision, it is usually because they are the only one who have the freedom and consequently the duty to act. So, of course, with any freedom, or with any right, better stated, one also has the duty to exercise that right correctly. Because if you don't exercise rights correctly, you lose them. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's a simple explanation of why you should always be willing to act, and you should never be self-sabotaging. That's for the final part of that. These are observations around indecisiveness. And let me repeat a point that I've stated before. You should always write down what you're doing on pen and paper. It's always a good idea to write down things on pen and paper, because in that case, you'll at least start thinking productively. You'll get out of whatever rut you're in. It worked for me. It works for me oftentimes. And also another point, a lot of this is obvious. A lot of these things seem like obvious truths. This is what I find pretty sad about advice, is that good advice is usually obvious. It's right in front of you. It's hidden in plain sight. That's the sad thing about it. But sometimes, in order to understand or appreciate a truth, you need to go through the complications around it, and discussing around the subject, discussing the whys and hows of it in order to appreciate that truth. And hopefully this is useful, and I get 88,000 Nobel Prizes, and I solve world hunger, and I achieve world peace, and no one has a problem called indecisiveness ever again. Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.